I think it's really important at this moment in American history where the Trump regime is trying all kinds of violent, desperate things. They're trying to communicate to everybody that they're big and powerful, and it's all a fucking cope. It's a giant cope. The regime is more weak, more precarious than they have ever been at any point in the last year. And you could argue like any point in the last 10 years, probably. During this period of authoritarian creep, and now this period of authoritarian breakthrough that we're in, the regime has tried to project strength through violence, strength through intimidation, but both of those things are absolutely signs of their profound weakness. And all authoritarian regimes are very weak, and we know that regimes that do not have the consent of the people, that are deeply unpopular, and where the people are organized in mass sustained resistance, especially with the support of labor unions, we know that those authoritarian regimes are going to crumble and fall. There are two things that really matter right now. Well, there's a lot of things, but I want to talk about two things that really matter right now. One is understanding the ways that authoritarian regimes are weak, and two is understanding how much power we have and the fact that power originates in us. It originates in us, not in Donald Trump, not in the executive branch, not in Congress. We have the power. We have lent it out to other folks, or we have chosen not to exercise our power. But in this moment in the United States, we're learning to reclaim that power, to pool that power with other folks, and to flex it as the American people collectively. Okay, so let me first talk about how dictatorships, how authoritarian regimes have weaknesses. I'm going to be reading here for a moment from Gene Sharp's classic book, From Dictatorship to Democracy. This is one of his smallest books. It's a great intro to understanding nonviolent resistance, especially nonviolent direct action techniques. Dictatorships often appear invulnerable. Intelligence agencies, police, military forces, prisons, concentration camps, and execution squads are controlled by a powerful few. A country's finances, natural resources, and production capacities are often arbitrarily plundered by dictators and used to support the dictator's will. Boy, that's sure happening in the US right now. In comparison, democratic opposition forces often appear extremely weak, ineffective, and powerless. That perception of invulnerability against powerlessness makes effective opposition unlikely, but that's not the whole story, however. A myth from classical Greece illustrates well the vulnerability of the supposedly invulnerable. Against the warrior Achilles, no blow would injure and no sword would penetrate his skin. When still a baby, Achilles' mother had supposedly dipped him into the waters of the magical river Styx, resulting in the protection of his body from all dangers. There was, however, a problem. Since the baby was held by his heel so that he would not be washed away, the magical water had not covered that small part of his body. When Achilles was a grown man, he appeared to be all invulnerable to the enemy's weapons. However, in the battle against Troy, instructed by one who knew the weakness, an enemy soldier aimed his arrow at Achilles' unprotected heel, the one spot where he could be injured. The strike proved fatal. Still today, the phrase Achilles' heel refers to a vulnerable part of a person, a plan, or an institution at which, if attacked, there is no protection. The same principle applies to ruthless dictatorships. They too can be conquered, but most quickly and with least cost if their weaknesses can be identified and the attack concentrated on them. We're not playing whack-a-mole here. We're using targeted techniques. We are being wise and focused in how we are using our energy to undermine the regime. Okay, weaknesses of dictatorships. Among the weaknesses of dictatorships are the following. Number one, the cooperation of a multitude of people, groups, and institutions needed to operate the system may be restricted or withdrawn. This is about getting institutions and people to be non-compliant, to withdraw their support from the regime, because the regime only has power because folks and institutions are willing to support it. Okay, number two, the requirements and effects of the regime's past policies will somewhat limit its present ability to adapt and to implement conflicting policies. Oh, I should have said, as I work through this list, think about which ones apply to the Trump regime, because there's going to be several. Number three, the system may become routine in its operation, less able to adjust quickly to new situations. Number four, personnel and resources already allocated for existing tasks will not be easily available for new needs. Number 5, subordinates fearful of displeasing their superiors may not report accurate or complete information needed by the dictators to make decisions. Number 6, the ideology may erode, and myths and symbols of the system may become unstable. Number 7, if a strong ideology is present that influences one's view of reality, firm adherence to it may cause inattention to actual conditions and needs. Number 8, deteriorating efficiency and competency of the bureaucracy or excessive controls and regulations may make the system's policies and operations ineffective. Number 9, internal institutional conflicts and personal rivalries and hostilities may harm and even disrupt the operations of the dictatorship. Number 10, intellectuals and students may become restless in response to conditions, restrictions, doctrinalism, and repression. I mean, we're already seeing that. Number 11, the general public may over time become apathetic, skeptical, and even hostile to the regime. Y'all, they haven't cemented power yet, right? They're not a fully installed dictatorship, and the American people were fucking hostile to the regime, right? We're not willing to comply with their authoritarian agenda. We're not willing to obey. They don't have the consent of the governed. The lack of public support is a huge weakness for this regime. Regional, class, cultural, and national differences may become acute. Definitely seeing that. The power hierarchy of the dictatorship is always unstable to some degree, and at times extremely so. Right now, as Donald Trump seems to be really cognitively struggling, right? What's going on behind the scenes? Who is jockeying for power back there? Individuals do not only remain in the same position in the ranking, but may rise or fall to other ranks like Greg Bovino, or be removed entirely and replaced by new persons like Tom Homan, right? Replacing Greg Bovino. Number 14, sections of the police or military forces may act to achieve their own objectives, even against the will of the establishment dictator, including by coup d'etat. Number 15, if the dictatorship is new, time is required for it to become well established. They aren't established at all yet, right? They're trying to. They're in this period of breakthrough. They're trying to establish themselves. We're not going to let them become established at all. Number 16, with so many decisions being made by so few people in the dictatorship, mistakes of judgment, policy, and action are likely to occur. Tell me we're not seeing this on a daily basis. How many senators think that they're so big and smart and they're just like fuming that Donald Trump is making the most ridiculous self-sabotaging moves that undercut the power of the Republicans, and they're letting him because they've chosen to bend the knee. Okay, number 17, if the regime seeks to avoid these dangers and decentralizes controls and decision-making, its control over the central levers of power may be further eroded. Part of us wielding our collective power is identifying which of those 17 weaknesses is most profound and then strategizing, honing our tactics. With knowledge of such inherent weaknesses, the democratic opposition can seek to aggravate these Achilles heels deliberately in order to alter the system drastically or to disintegrate it. The conclusion is then clear despite the appearance of strength. All dictatorships have weaknesses, internal inefficiencies, personal rivalries, institutional inefficiencies, and conflicts between organizations and departments. These weaknesses over time tend to make the regime less effective and more vulnerable to changing conditions and to deliberate resistance. Not everything the regime sets out to accomplish will get completed. For the Trump regime, they're failing more than they are winning. At times, for example, even Hitler's direct orders were never implemented because those beneath him in the hierarchy refused to carry them out. The dictatorial regime may at times even fall apart quickly, as we have already observed. That's I think what's happening in the U.S. It's crumbling swiftly. We're making it crumble swiftly. This does not mean that dictatorships can be destroyed without risks or casualties. Every possible course of action for liberation will involve risk and potential suffering, and it will take time to operate. And of course, no means of action can ensure rapid success in every situation. However, types of struggle that target the dictatorship's identifiable weaknesses have a greater chance of success than those that seek to fight the dictatorship where it is clearly strongest. The question is, how is this struggle to be waged?